Welcome everyone. In our previous video, we generated a simple stock analytics data from CNN Money website. We scraped the necessary information from that website using beautiful soup and some basic Python. If you have not seen this video, the link is in the description. You can go and watch that video first. Now in that video, we outputted all the information like this. So you have all the information here, but it does not look like a proper report. So in this video, what we will do is we will take this output and then create a PDF report which will represent these results in this format. So just like the previous video, I'll go over the codes and then explain each line what that means. First, to start with how we can put this data into a table that is printed on a PDF, first we need to store this data in a list of lists. So what do I mean by that is, for example, let's see, we have a list called data. This is a list, and all these results from each website or about each stock can be stored into another list. So this is basically a list of lists where the outer list contains the inner list, and each inner list contains the information about each stock. So once we have this list of lists built, then we can go ahead and generate our PDF. So first, let's make this list of lists. So to make this list of lists, let's say we name our list as data. That is the outer list. And as you have seen in this, we want our table to have a header. So the first one is this line. So even though you cannot see the lines here, but they are basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. So you have to put values on all 6 columns. But in our first row, we only have one value. And that's what we did here. Even though there are 6 columns, everything else we left it empty, and there's only one value, you put it in the list. That is your first row. In our second row, we put the value, stock, price, median price, all these headers in a list. So basically we are appending these 2 rows into our data list. Then this was done in the previous video. We do our Python code. The Python code runs and it generates some data. So we append each output, that means each line, into our data. So as you can see, we're appending this list. This is the inner list that contains basically these information. So you're putting all this value in a list, and that list is appending into the data list. So that's how you basically made a list of lists. So now your data contains all these lists. Next, we need to create this table. So for that, I have written a function which is called build PDF. And for this function, we passed passed data as a parameter. So let's go ahead and see what this function does. So for writing a report in a PDF using Python, we need to import another Python package called reportlab. If you don't have this reportlab, you have to install it. You can use pip install reportlab. So as you can see, we have imported from the reportlab.platypus. We imported simple doc template, table and table style, and from reportlab.library or lib, we imported page size and colors. I'll explain what each one of these does when we are building the building the PDF. So this is our function that builds the PDF. First, we give our file name. Let's say the name of our file name is cnnmoney.pdf. Next, we need to create our PDF. So it's basically a constructor for a class. So you are creating an object of the simple doc template, and then you are initializing your PDF. So for this simple doc template, you give the file name, that's basically the name of your PDF file, and then the page size is letter. Now there are different type of page sizes. You can have A4, landscape, B4, or something like that. But for our purpose, we want it as a letter. So then you initiated the PDF. So first we want to put our data into table, which is an object of class table. So table, it takes the parameter data, and we have the table. Now you can, initially we will just print this and see how the PDF looks like. So to do that, you need to have a list. So in our case, we gave the name as elements or elements or whatever. You can put any name that you want, and then we append our table into the elements. This is basically, elements is basically a list of things that you are going to put into the PDF. So we want to put our table into the PDF, and that's why first you need to put your table into the element, and then you build the PDF. Now if you run this code, you'll see once the build is done. So now scraping the websites, and then it's building the PDF. Now once the PDF is built, so as you can see, this is how it initially looks, and this is how we would expect how it looks, right? So each row, basically each row is one list. This is second list, and all the lists are printed in a PDF. It doesn't look very good, right? So we want something that looks exactly like this. Now the styling part of our table. So we have the table inside the PDF. Now we need to style it. So first we will do our table styling. So what does that mean is we are creating that's the style that we want to put into our table. So we want the background. That's basically what we want to change. Then these are coordinates, so 0, 0 and -1, 1. What does this coordinate means? Let me show you. So if this is a table, this is your coordinate. So this cell of the table is 0, 0. This is 1, 0, 2, 0, and move on. The last column, you can put this one as -1. As you know, in Python, -1 basically means the last element. So if you are talking about this cell, that basically means the last cell of 0th row or the first row. Similarly, this is the last cell of a row of index 1, and this one is basically means the last cell in the last row and last column. So you can put it as -1, -1. So what in our case, we want the background. So we want the background to be green for the first two rows. So we want from 0, 0 to -1, 1. So this basically means these two rows. So that's what we did, 0, 0 to -1 and 1. We want these two rows as green. We want the text color of these two rows as white. That's basically this white. It's called white smoke. And we want the font of these two rows as bold. It's Helvetic bold. Next, we want everything inside our table to be aligned center. So that's basically starting from 0, 0 to -1, -1. That means we want everything to be aligned center. So we start from here until here. That's basically the whole table. That is, we want them aligned center. Now, just to make it look good, we want to add some bottom padding. That's basically starts from 0, 1. So it starts from here until the end, -1, 1. And we add some padding of size 8. And lastly, we want these rows to have a beige color, right? So what we can do is, starting from 0, 2, that's basically this one, 0, 2, until the end, that is -1, -1, we want the color beige. So that basically makes this one as a beige color. Lastly, we want the font size to be 8, and that is for everything. So starting from here until this end, we want our font size to be 8. Okay, so once we have that, let's add this style into our table, and let's see how our PDF looks right now. So once you run it, once again, it will scrape the website, and finally it will generate the PDF. Once it is done, you can give a refresh, and as you can see, our table almost looks like what we have here. So we have the background, green background, and everything else as beige color. Now the last thing we need to do is to add some borders. So we want to add some lines. So that's basically another set of styling you can add into your table. That's this border. So we want a box of that starts from 0, 0 until -1, 1. That basically means we want a box around the whole table. So that's the first line, starts from 0, 0 to -1. 1 is the width of the line, and the color is black. And the next one is these lines that separates each row. So we want a line above, starting from this. So we want a line here and then here. So line above starting from this cell until the last cell. That is the line above does. So line above, 1 is the width of your line, and the line color is black. So once you have the border styling, add the style into the table, and now you can run it again. And finally, once the run is done, all the information is scraped and the PDF is built, you will find that you have the table that looks exactly like what you wanted. So this is how we want it. This is how it looks like. So now you have a PDF file as a proper report for all the analytical data that you have scraped using Beautiful Soup. And now you can properly see the results in a PDF report. Thank you for watching. If you find this helpful, please like and subscribe to the channel. We'll come up with some new videos like this soon. Thank you.